the shootout ended, I should say, but it began where we're standing. So the glass, in fact, is still in the street back over here behind a police car. That's where the first window, as he mentioned, as Bob mentioned, was shot out as part of that chase. It's back over here, but I think you can see right over there by that blue car, Lance, kind of in the shade, half in the sun. That was where the back window was shot out. So, Brett, when we broke in with you about, I don't know how long ago it's been now, maybe half an hour, when this chase began, that's about the time that window was shot out. By the time the aerial pictures came in, that's where it ended up. So you can see that this shootout was really only a couple of blocks long, and it was very violent, as you heard from Bob. We met a couple other people coming down the street saying that they heard the gunshots as well, and pretty much everybody just hit the ground. And I got to tell you, it's out here, as you might imagine, all throughout this area for the last 4.5 hours. Is to say it's been tense is an understatement, Brett.
Okay, Adam, thank you. The bomb disable unit apparently at the scene there by that SUV. There doesn't seem to be a lot of urgency there, as Shep mentioned earlier, that perhaps the people or person or people, I believe it's two, inside were killed in that shootout. We don't have any official information yet that this was directly related. However, it's pretty coincidental if it's not, and we expect to get a briefing from authorities here shortly. Joining us again, Rod Wheeler, homicide detective here in Washington, D.C., and Ron Hosko, former FBI assistant director and crisis management lead. The assumption here, obviously, Rod, is that these are the guys, right. And the question is whether these are all the guys.
Right, and I think that's going to be the question for the next couple of hours. I think the other question that's going to come up, and already has come up, is what is the correlation between these three individuals and that particular building or the county of San Bernardino? Because as we talked about earlier, Brett, these individuals targeted that building for a reason. The other thing that I find very, very interesting from a police perspective is that this vehicle, the suspect vehicle that we're looking at now on the screen, had not made it further away from the actual crime scene. That's a bit unusual. Would you agree with that, Ron?
It is unusual. It is unusual.
Because usually in situations like this, their first priority, the bad guys, is to get as far away from the scene as they can. And for this vehicle to be less than a mile or two from the actual initial shooting scene really comes as a surprise.
Yeah, your thoughts on how this goes down? Well, first of all, our props and thanks to the law enforcement who obviously jumped on this right away.
You just stepped ahead of me.
Oh, I'm sorry, Ron.
I totally agree with you. Whether this was alert citizen or alert police officer on the street, because we see patrol units look like they were first engaged, not SWAT units. So assuming this was an alert citizen or an alert police officer pulling up behind this vehicle and using their senses and saying, this could be related. This is a phenomenal turnabout in what could have been days of apprehension in the California area and maybe across the country. And now it will be incumbent on the investigators to put this together and figure out, are there other pieces of this puzzle? What are we missing? Are there other actors, or is this small group, is this concluded?
And does it look like they're going in, and this is part of the investigation?
Part of what they are doing with the Bearcats is denying, people in that vehicle mobility. So that's job one. And then you do a very slow, deliberate clear of that vehicle, and that may mean pulling people out very slowly, whether they're hurt or not. You want to make sure that no additional law enforcement gets hurt, and then presumably go up there and check that vehicle for explosives and make sure, again, that something doesn't go bang, that law enforcement isn't hurt.
Let's go back to Shepard Smith in the news deck in New York. Shep.
They've been setting this up, Brett, for quite a while. Some of our viewers may have been watching. They've got this barricade set up. All indications are we've watched some video. There appears to be someone deceased in the back of this vehicle who, from all accounts, the person who had been firing at the cops as they came on this short drive from where Adam Housley was. Now they've set up this barricade and a vehicle is pushing it forward, acting in an abundance of caution. We saw there are a number of bullet holes in the front of the SUV, and we saw what looked like another person in the front, though we can't be certain about that because, frankly, when we zoomed in on that, the video is kind of blurry. There's another person in the street in a pool of blood as well. So if there is a person in the front here, that's third, and that would account for the number that they said from the very beginning. The law enforcement officers, they appear to think that this person is deceased in here. They stood down about 10 minutes ago and have frankly gotten into eyesight of the vehicle. So one one would assume that they believe everyone in there is dead. That said, you can see in the near ground of your picture the men who are armed in what appears to be camouflage just behind the tree on the bottom left of the screen, who had come out with guns drawn, and now they're just inching forward toward this vehicle. Lots of evidence is going to be in there. Chances are they'll have the weapons, obviously, from the shootout just a short time ago. Soon they'll probably be able to know who these people are and maybe get to a motive in this case. But the vehicle, Brett, as you can see, is pulling back now. They've gone in, presumably been able to get a bunch of information, 5 people on the front of that thing, and now backing off. This is a process, Brett, that might take some time. The last thing they want to do is mess up now.
Yeah, and as we're looking live here, the investigation, it appears, is solely focused, Shep, on this area. We're not hearing any other traffic of chases or any other activity.
There's other activity in the area, but it appears to us 2 or 3 different locations, but it appears that that's all abundance of caution. We have reports of a pipe bomb being found not very far from this. Could that have been dropped out of a vehicle? It could have been. It's on this same avenue. Whether it's connected, we can't be sure. We know that someone who was running through the neighborhood has been apprehended. At this point, we have no reason to believe that that person was directly involved with this. The only thing that was sort of left unknown was when these men left this facility there in San Bernardino, did they have a driver in addition to what the police believe was 3 shooters? Of that, we can't be certain yet. And as we have 3 different choppers overhead on this now, the Fox chopper and our 2 network news service affiliate choppers, and from all of their different angles, we believe there are 2 people inside. But again, it's blurry enough to where you can't really tell. We watched for a while. There was absolutely no movement. It's so dark in there that you can't, from the chopper shot, you can't really tell if there was blood in there, but you can presume that there was indeed. You can see the police car, which is right now, if you're to back up to the right near corner of this, is where the police car is that has windows blown out all around it. But it's our understanding that the officer who was injured was not hit by direct fire, but by a ricochet, and now from the hospital that officer is going to be, and I quote, fine. Look at the left side of your screen now. You see more of these heavily armed officers moving their way in, and now a retriever of some kind on a long pole. Most likely they'll put that in there. If I'm guessing, Brett, they'll poke the people who are inside to see if they're alive, or maybe try to retrieve a weapon before they go in there farther. If they see a weapon, they'd want to retrieve that before going in to take any further action. Yeah. I'm sure one of the things that you'd be concerned about if you're an officer is somebody in there playing hurt or playing dead, able to do one more thing. They don't want to allow that.
Yeah, I mean, there'll be plenty of time to analyze this for politics, but Rod Wheeler, this San Bernardino Police Department obviously is equipped with those armored vehicles, and they have the equipment and the staff ready to handle this.
Absolutely, they're very well equipped. As a matter of fact, they had a training session from what I hear earlier today. So they've been training for these types of situations. They know exactly what they're doing. The approach to the vehicle is a very methodical approach. This is an approach that they've used before. This is an approach that most of us in law enforcement would use, Brett, in a situation like this.
Let's go to Adam Housley as another eyewitness on the scene. Adam.
Yeah, Brett, in fact, we have all these guys here. We're pretty much all in the area. I think we're being moved out, but let me see if I can get one of them to talk to us. Can I ask? As you can see, the part of the problem is a lot of these guys are having to find a place to go and to do it in a safe situation. These guys were all working here when the shots basically started right here in front of this business. In fact, I have a couple of them. Can I ask one of you guys a question really quick? Anybody? Yeah. What'd you see? What'd you hear?
Just first shots here. The cops were trying to stop a black SUV, and I just heard the shots, and the back window of the SUV just broke off. Shattered, and some more shots down the street here, and then the majority shots a block away, and there was a good at least 19, 20 shots.
Yeah, it's like 19, 20, you think?
19 to 20 shots from the shot number 1 to the last shots. Yeah, it was pretty bad.
How many of you guys were? I mean, obviously you guys were all, I know, shutting the factory down, hiding, getting down low when that happened. I mean, that's got to be pretty nerve-wracking, I assume, right?
Definitely. We were ducking back to the wall right here, back of the car where I was escorting out here, and it was pretty scary.
Well, what's this like for someone who doesn't, someone who's not from San Bernardino, to know that this happened in a mile and a half from here? You had a massacre, a horrible massacre, and then to have the shootout take out right here.
It was scary, and we were cautious with all of us here. We were all cautious. We had everything locked down, and just to be safe. we were escorting people out and locking everything down. That's all it was.
All right. Yeah. Nice meeting you. Sorry in this circumstance. Hey, Brett, we'll give it back to you now. But you can see all these guys were here. They witnessed it. There's a lot of witnesses on this street. And you're going to believe that police are moving a lot of us back now because they want to interview all these folks to continue this investigation, Brett.
Okay, Adam Housley live there, just down the block from what you're looking at live in San Bernardino. Let's head back to Shep with some thoughts about federal officials' activity.
Indeed, and I'll get to that. If you look in the back left passenger side of this, the driver's side of this vehicle, they've just pulled what appears to be a deceased man out of the back seat. From the way they pull this person, it appears that this was the person who was in the back of this vehicle. And closer look inside the vehicle, if there's another person in there now, we don't see that person. And this just in from the Los Angeles Times. The Los Angeles Times is quoting a federal official who says that the feds believe a man was in this meeting when this shooting began. A man was in the meeting, angrily left the meeting, then returned with, quote, one or two others, unquote, and started shooting. So, according to the reporting of the Times, a federal official says one of the shooters was actually in this meeting, left and came back with others in this, what is now clearly a very organized event. One person pulled out of the back of that SUV now, another person dead on the streets, and there are multiple reports in and around Los Angeles, Brett, including that of NBC4, the NBC News owned and operated station, that in fact one suspect is still on the loose. Fox News can't confirm that, and we don't at this moment have reason to believe that, but I should tell you that NBC is reporting that, and we'll see.
Okay, Shep, we're watching live and watching all the activity there on the street, but there's also obviously activity throughout San Bernardino as they're trying to determine whether this is it or there are other things going on. Back with Rod Wheeler and Ron Hosko. Ron, we talked about the investigation and where this goes, but until you get to motive, tying all this together is really a puzzle.
That's right, and we will see things. Let's assume these are the players. We will see on social media. The law enforcement will be able to track. Presumably, they've all been moving with cell phones. They'll be able to track the fact that the three of them were together, that they were at these locations, and that they arrived here. So the pieces will be put together along with those other witnesses in the room if Shepard's report turns out to be valid.
Yeah. Is in this environment, a lot of the country is just on edge, Rod, and we see this. We don't have an explanation for it, and there's a lot of cities that are saying, "Are we ready for something like this?"
That's right. And I think a number of cities are preparing, and have prepared for active shooter situations, obviously. But a lot of this goes back to mental health, and I don't want to, make this into a political discussion or anything, Brett. But it really goes back to mental health. Although in this particular situation, I find it very interesting, which Shep just reported, that if it comes to be true that this one guy was associated with this holiday party or this meeting, that may be the nexus as to why this event took place today. And I've been saying all day since this thing first broke, there had to be a correlation between either one or all three of these individuals and that second floor of that building. Because why? They passed the first floor, went directly to the second floor, went to the conference room. Why did they do that? Why didn't they just shoot up everybody on the outside? They didn't do that. So I think what Shep just reported is really, really interesting. And I think as the night goes on, we're going to learn a lot more.
Yeah, but when you're talking mental health, I mean, you've got three guys involved potentially. Sure. That's a different
That is a different ball game, absolutely. That may not be mental health related.
Yeah, let me talk, Shep, you got something else?
Yeah, this, Brett, is not over, sadly. What we now have is confirmed one dead in the street here, one dead in the vehicle, and there is another active scene underway right now. According to multiple reports from the scene, including that of KTLA and KNBC, a man has barricaded himself inside a home nearby, apparently believed to be another of the suspects in this case. Remember, one person is dead on the left-hand side of your screen here. Another is dead. They just pulled out of the vehicle, and there is a third person at least that we know of. Well, nearby in a residential area inside a home, authorities now, in fact, we have live pictures of this. No, that's near this scene. Nearby here, there is a man barricaded inside a home, according to multiple reports. Police have surrounded it, and apparently they believe that another suspect may be barricaded inside this home.